guys, I did an embarrassing amount of research for you, and I meant to discuss it with my friends, but honestly, I don't have the patience to wait for them to be here. I did a deep dive on the whole balls situation in soy sauce. So, there are 2 mechanisms by which potentially one could taste soy sauce with their balls. 2 mechanisms. The first is more plausible, right? If you've ever had a saline drip, if they've ever given you saline by IV, you know that you could taste the salt, right? So anything that ups the amount of, right? Anything that's like giving you salt in your body, you might taste that salt. Now, the tissue is pretty thin and fairly permeable. It's possible that some salt could diffuse through the skin of your balls because there are a lot of blood vessels there, very close to the surface of the skin. But again, pretty unlikely for pretty obvious reasons. You know, if it were somewhere with a lot more permeability, like your butt, I feel like maybe, but I don't think that enough enough salt from soy sauce is gonna diffuse through your ball skin to make you taste salt. That just doesn't seem plausible to me. Okay, so then the next piece of this, the next possible way, is that you do have chemical receptors, very much like the ones in your mouth, in other parts of your body, because your body needs to keep track of, for instance, the amount of sugar in your blood, right? It seems like sperm themselves, they have chemosensors, which help them navigate through the female reproductive system to find the egg, right? Is this me asking you to test these theories? Absolutely not. Please don't put your balls in soy sauce. Although, if you were gonna put your balls in a condiment, I would recommend soy sauce because it doesn't have a lot of sugar, so it wouldn't really raise your risk of infection tremendously. I still don't suggest it, but yeah, no, so it's probably one of the better options, and it's not like it isn't high in vinegar or anything, so it probably wouldn't cause tremendous irritation unless you were like allergic to it. Sugar-free condiments, yeah, no, never put sugar anywhere near parts of your body that are prone to infection, or you will increase the likelihood of infection. And that can be quite serious, so, you know, be careful. No, peri-peri sauce is a terrible choice. It's got capsaicin and sugar. Terrible choice, and a lot of vinegar, so it could be quite astringent, and it could dry the tissue out and cause irritation. What about fats? More complicated, but also broadly much better than sugar, right? For your skin, for your sensitive areas. Don't put either on your sensitive areas. Yeah, what I would say is don't put food on the sensitive parts of your body that are prone to infection. Ideally. So the other mechanism by which theoretically someone could taste something with their balls. Now, there actually are inside your balls a lot of chemoreceptors because sperm have really particular needs. They need to have a very precise amount of sugar. They need to be kept in a slightly basic environment. So you have bitterness receptors, which detect basicness. That's probably a much better way to say that, right? Detect, high pH. And you have salty sensors, and you have, alkalinity. Yeah, there are a ton of ways to say this that would be much better than the way I said it initially. Basicness. Jesus. But that's all on the inside of your balls, not on the outside of your balls. And furthermore, this is a thing that goes viral on the internet. Every few years, someone is like, did you know you have taste buds in your butt? And it's true. You do have chemoreceptors very similar to the ones in your taste buds inside of your butt. But again, unless they're hooked up to the same part of your brain that your taste buds are, you're not gonna taste it in your mouth, right? That's insane. That's like saying like, oh, I have pressure sensors on my foot and I have pressure sensors on my hand. So if I press my foot, I'll feel it in my hand, right? No, you have chemoreceptors in both places, but that doesn't mean that you're gonna detect them the same way in those different places. You're definitely not going to taste it in your mouth from your ball chemoreceptors, right? That's not going to happen. However, some people pointed out, some people in the comments were saying that you can taste spicy. Spicy is not a taste. It's not one of the tastes. You do not have a detector, a sensor for spicy. You have what is the exact name of it? Oh my gosh. It detects pressure and pain and heat as well. I think it's mostly for pain and heat, but it's a very particular receptor that is triggered by spicy, by capsaicin, and also by piperine and various other chemicals that somehow trigger it. But the reason why you can feel that on, for instance, your balls, but also in your mouth, is because you have heat and pain sensors in both locations, right? Not because you are tasting it. It's not taste. It is a chemical that can trigger your heat and pain receptors. Like a spicy meatball. Wow. What a thing to say. So anyway, I think that about covers everything that we were gonna discuss. I think that's everything that I felt the need to share about the tasting with your balls discussion. You can't. It's not true. But I think that there are several ways that one could trick oneself into believing that you could. Soy sauce has a very particular smell, and if you eat a lot of soy sauce, right, you smell that soy sauce smell, and you can kind of already taste it. And so I think that there's a way that if you're sort of expecting to taste something, and you can smell it, and you're really familiar with like, oh, I smell the soy sauce, I taste the soy sauce, right? I think that sitting there with your balls hanging in a bowl of soy sauce for a while, as I think a lot of these creators are, you would get the sense like, oh, I'm starting to taste it, but really you're just starting to smell it. So that's my hypothesis, because balls are usually quite warm, like slightly below body heat temperature, which I think would cause more of the vapors to enter the air. And so I think that it would contribute to you feeling like you can taste the soy sauce, even though it's just that your balls are in it. Anyway, I don't know if people are interested in that, but personally, I thought it was kind of interesting. I like when there is an event where people can observe something and we know that it's kind of impossible, right? All of us kind of in our heads are like, there's no way, right? But we keep seeing people have this experience, and I think it's interesting to dissect that when it happens. So I hope that people found that interesting. Will the salsa spice the microplastics in my balls? Why do you want them spiced? Why do you want them spiced? Anyway, I'm gonna call Sumi now because I love her.